Horgan of the Irish Peace and Neutrality Alliance. Ed.
Thank you very much. I suppose first to explain, I suppose my main emphasis is human rights. I consider myself to be a human rights activist. And while I talk quite a bit about things like neutrality and the legality of those issues, it's not so much the legality that worries me, it's the denial of human rights. The right to life is the most basic human right. And Ireland has participated in the extinguishing of the right to life of over 1 million people in Afghanistan, Iraq and Pakistan over the last 6 to 7 years. And clearly that is my interest in neutrality. Ireland should be, according to our constitution, a peaceful state promoting peace by peaceful means, not participating in war. I've handed around this sheet. I have more copies here if you haven't got a copy of it already. Just very briefly, there are 2 sets of figures. The first set shows us passing through Shannon Airport, landing and being refueled, and the last section shows us passing through our airspace. At the moment, planes carrying troops, about 200 troops on each plane, and about 3 per day are passing through Shannon Airport, bringing between 500 and 700 troops a day, armed with ammunition, on their way to and from the wars in Afghanistan and Iraq. So at least 500 troops a day, every day, for 7 years have been passing through Shannon Airport. Clearly that is a total breach of Irish neutrality. In addition, we have roughly 1 US military plane a day, usually carrying heavy cargo, usually Hercules C-130s, carrying bombs, munitions and other stuff like that. They're not carrying sandwiches, they're not carrying fighting cabinets or whatever, they're carrying serious stuff. We also know that some charter planes had been specifically given a license by our Department of Agriculture to take depleted uranium munitions through Shannon Airport. So clearly serious stuff is going through. Apart from everything else, apart from the fact these are being used to kill innocent people, if one of these planes exploded on the runway, it would demolish the complete terminal building and a significant section, probably 3 or 4 factories in the industrial estate, as well as the flats which are close to the airport. There are serious dangers on a daily basis at Shannon Airport that have been totally ignored, apart from the fact that we have helped to kill 1 million people in those 3 countries. So clearly from a human rights point of view, we are grossly out of line, morally, legally and in several other ways, by helping the US military fight unlawful, unjustified wars in Iraq, Afghanistan and Iraq. And the Lisbon Treaty expands the whole militarization of Europe, militarization of the West, and it's also important to link NATO with the European Union. The European battle groups are closely integrated with NATO. Ireland is now involved with NATO so-called peacekeeping forces in Kosovo, Bosnia and in Afghanistan. We have 7 Irish officers serving in Afghanistan, helping the NATO forces to deal with the Taliban, the Afghan freedom fighters, the equivalent of Michael Collins and Patrick Pearse here in Ireland back in the fight for independence. The Afghan forces, clearly they're not necessarily the nicest of people, but that's the business of the Afghan people. We are at the moment helping to defeat the Afghan freedom fighters in Afghanistan, and we shouldn't be there by a long shot. People are being killed, innocent people, weddings are being bombed. Last Friday, the German NATO forces called in a US airstrike on 2 fuel tankers that were being siphoned by local villagers. At least 110 people were incinerated, basically, and many more very severely burned. And we are part of that in Afghanistan. So that's a hugely serious issue. Brian Cowan has told us that they have received, and we have been told in fact, that we have received legally binding guarantees from the European Union on issues like neutrality and other stuff. We have received nothing of the sort. First of all we have received will be a declaration, and we haven't got it yet. We have a promise that we might get it at some time in the future when the next EU treaty is being negotiated, maybe 2 years, maybe 5 or 10 years. All it needs is one EU state, one EU head of state to say, sorry, that was negotiated by my predecessor, George Brown is now gone, my name is Cameroon, I don't agree with this, and that goes down the drain. We have no guarantees on neutrality. Secondly, Ireland is no longer a neutral state. 1 million US troops at Patrichan Airport, probably even up to 1.5 million. We are in gross breach of international laws and neutrality. You cannot provide legally binding guarantees or any kind of guarantees for a neutrality that does not exist. And clearly we are being lied to on that issue in particular. And if only to tell the government you do not like being lied to, then we should vote no for this particular referendum. Just a few issues. I read the Lisbon Treaty in a fair bit of detail the last time round. I've only in the last day or two got around to starting rereading it again. You should read it actually. It's very important. It's scary in fact.